Anthony, we know the IRS has been known to make mistakes.
Yes.
But I think sometimes people are so intimidated by the IRS that they assume the information is correct or they're just afraid to fight them. Now, we have said multiple times that if you try to fight the IRS in the incorrect way, it can definitely raise red flags, get an IRS agent maybe personally involved in your destruction, and you don't necessarily want to do that. So what's the best way that you could recommend someone to deal with the IRS?
Well, you want to deal with the IRS like a tax attorney would. Mm-hmm. That's what you want to deal with. And because a tax attorney is going to get the best result. Now, not everybody can afford to hire a tax attorney or can find the right one for them. It can be difficult. So the first thing is think of yourself as a client of yourself. And if you have to just be able to separate yourself. And this is really why a lot of, one of the number one profession that hires us are attorneys.
Really?
Yeah, because they know that they can't be their own client because they'll make those mistakes and they'll get emotionally involved because, they've seen their own clients make an emotional decision that doesn't really pay off in the long run. And they know they have the same tendency we all do. I hire attorneys for stuff that I could represent myself on, but I hire them too because I know I will be my own worst client because it's so difficult to step out. And I just had some recent litigation where I was going to sue all the way, and my attorney then gave me the cost estimate to go sue all the way. And I had to look at that as like, okay, let me settle because this is simply not worth everything involved.
Yep. Which brings us to our second point, and I've learned this in many jobs and in life in general, that the minute you fight back personally, you've lost.
That's right. You have lost so much because you've lost sort of some of your integrity. There's that part of you that you've given up, and you've given up control. You've made it personal. You're no longer above it. You're right in the mix of it, and it's nasty. Now you have to backpedal out of it. How do you go out and save face of somebody you've just offended? Luckily, in my professional experience, I've only raised my voice once, and then one time I slammed the phone down. Luckily, no one at the IRS heard it. So sometimes it can get the best of you, and especially, this is for when I'm working on a client, so it's easier for me to have that separation. So, it's really so much self-discipline. You have to practice, I guess maybe go around your children and try to see if your children can enrage you. And if you could just stay above it, then okay, great. Now you're ready to deal with the IRS.
Yes, because if you do get emotionally involved, now you have an IRS agent that their walls immediately go up and then the fight begins.
That's right.
And you really can't beat them when it comes to that.
They have the power, and that's one of the things you have to understand. You have to give them that power to say, look, you're in control. You can decide which way you want to go this. And, the analogy you use is, you don't have to be fat. You don't have to outrun a bear. You just have to be faster than someone else and let the bear get them. And it's sort of true with the IRS. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to give enough so that someone else earns their attention, not you.
All right. So what's some positive ways to deal with the IRS?
Well, okay. I think one of the best ways is to be detailed and dispassionate. And just, maybe even refer to yourself as taxpayer when you're calling. Because when I call, I say, okay, well, the taxpayer is this. The taxpayer says this. And even if you're not paying your taxes, say it anyway. And that way you're sort of getting them in their role. Because that's how their trainings go. That's how they're used to, their supervisors are going over their training. You want to talk like they do.
So it's almost clinical and a little bit emotionless.
Yes, it's clinical and emotionless. If you work in medicine, or if you pay attention to what a doctor's putting on your chart, a doctor will say, client denies nicotine use. The doctor's not saying you smoke or don't smoke. He's just saying you said you don't smoke. And that's as much as the fact as we know. So keeping it dispassionate, not saying, I've never smoked in my life. Okay, why is that relevant?
You also don't want to try to make yourself look like a saint.
Right. Yeah. And you don't want to overplay a hand. Now, you have, sometimes you have really good facts. There's a right way to play them. Don't overplay.
Got it.
Because you're going to raise suspicion. Why is this person doing this? And again, it's really to do, some of the, to put in a way a Jedi mind trick. You're just, giving soft, subtle influence in a very detailed and dispassionate way.
And follow up in their time.
Oh yeah, and you got to follow up and give them what they need.
Stick to the IRS timeline.
A lot of times, if you're somebody who's not giving them a hard time, they will say, okay, well, this is a case I can close out quickly without a lot of my resources. Good. That's what they're thinking. It's in their head right now. Okay, this is a good case because I can close this out really quickly. All right, I'm going to try to just tell this person that I just need this. And if they follow, then I can close this out and I get credit for closing my inventory. And so that's what's going through their heads a lot of the time. So you just say, okay, so you need this and this and this. Yes, if you give me that, well, I can close your case. They mean it.
Yeah. You know what I thought you said was awesome is if they don't care about you, you're on the right track.
Yeah.
And, just to sort of nail home the emotionless part of it, you had a client that got a little emotional with the IRS and it went bad quickly.
Well, unfortunately, he wasn't a client. I talked to him years after this disaster happened, and he was somebody who was on the right side of things. He was the white knight. He was the guy who was doing everything right, yet the IRS investigated him and started auditing him. He didn't hire an attorney because he's like, well, I did everything right. I'm the victim in this case. Why are they coming after me? So he got very chippy with the IRS auditor. And by chippy, I mean he said very nasty things, personally nasty things. And he recognized that is what led to his demise. That the auditor said, oh, okay, smart guy. You want to be abusive to me? I'll get the last laugh because everybody will work around me.
Yep.
So they were able to assess some penalties that ruined him. And the court upheld it. The court upheld penalties that were ridiculous, that had no basis in law. Well, maybe a basis in law, but there was no facts to support this. This was completely wrong. But, it was a personal enemy that you made, and it was something that you just could have nodded your head. Okay, I understand what you're doing. You're here to examine me because that's your job. You're going to go through my personal affairs, and I can't take it personally that you're asking me these personal questions about why I'm doing this. And a lot of times you have a new auditor or revenue agent who doesn't know a lot of things, and they could ask very ignorant questions. Well, they're brand new. They don't know things. And so slamming them down,
Won't get you anywhere.
they're going to go back to their supervisor, and their supervisor's going to come to the defense like, okay, well, here's how we can get this guy back for you.
Got it. So you can negotiate with the IRS, but you just have to be very careful.
Yeah.
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 Well, if you need help negotiating with the IRS, don't hesitate to contact us, IRSMedic.com. You can like and comment below. If you have questions, we'll get back to you. You can also subscribe to our channel for more awesome tax info. Thanks for watching. IRSMedic, the law offices of Parent & Parent, LLP. Real tax attorneys for tough tax problems.